photographic processes and digital photography. She focuses on themes including exodus, immigration, climate change, and sustainability. Her work has been shown in solo and group shows in America and Colombia at such institutions including Geiklar Gallery at Big Car, Farr Center for Contemporary Arts, Swope Art Museum, El Museo Cultural Santa Fe, Pereira Museum of Art, Musea La Tarturia, Cali, John Walden Arts Center, and Arts Council of Southwestern Indiana, among others. Her series ESX Coca was awarded by the Ministry of Culture Colombia with the Artist Trajectory Grant. And the series has also received the Drugs, Politics, and Violence Award from Visite Projects. Please join me in welcoming Alexandra McNichols Torroledo.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Thank you. The microphone is on. Okay. Hi, all of you, and thank you so much for coming in this day, rainy day, cold day. Thank you so much. I'm so thankful because Shelby invited me to be discussing such an important subject and all of the subjects that we are going to be discussing today throughout my projects. And starting with this, I forgot to ask you, can you lower a little bit the lights to see better the photographs? And then this photograph that you are seeing right now is one of the main photographs I produced for this topic that I call Age Coca. And I want that you understand when I'm talking about age, I'm using the translation that the NASA indigenous of the Andes are using. So that actually means coca leaves, right? And then I brought here today my main camera, which is a camera that is 84 years old, right? And obviously, as any photographer, I travel with my digital camera, my cell phone. I use any tool and any studies or skills I have, because for me, it's very important to represent the subjects of photography. The ones are portraying matter of record like social justice, environmental subjects, prejudice, and going on and on. So this is an invitation for you also to, when you have the time to visit Matter of Record, because it includes the best photographers all over the world, and especially the best photographers in America. So I wanted to start by giving a context to you of what subjects and what topics I've been developing that Mary and Shelby announced, and I had this amazing exhibition in Bloomington at the beginning of the year. So guys, don't worry, I'm just going to be talking about exhibitions this year. And what you are seeing here are photographs, and that actually I wanted to start with that because it's a project I started in 2011 in which I was putting photographs, as you see, on stones. And I entitled this body of artwork Stone Faces because it was so simple. But what I wanted to do there is to reflect one of the topics was touching me the most when I came to live in America. And that was the subject of immigration. So I can tell you that I've been living here in Indiana, in the Midwest, for the last 20 years. And then I can tell you I self-exile myself from the ongoing war conflict that Colombia is experiencing because of the cocaine war and other problems that we have in Colombia associated to climate change, like mega projects. So I put this series of photographs that I display at the Cook Center. As you see, are stones embedded in an stones, and that are representing important topics like Evacor, when I introduce all of these series of portraits, let me tell you, are from women like me in exile because the current situation, or previous war like Eva Kor, that is a Holocaust survivor. But I entitled this piece, as you can read, so important, Forgiveness is the Seed for Peace, because Eva is a woman from Israel, basically. And when I put this exhibition, we were already at the conflict with Palestine, and then I produced this stone, and at that moment were 25,000 civilians. By now we know it's 45,000 civilians that they have died. And also I included a woman from Ukraine. So what I wanted to tell you in few words is this body of artwork was addressing not only women in exile, because it was reflecting my exile, but important topics that are current topics. And that is when I feel that I could define myself like an artist, because an artist that is reflecting contemporary subjects with a critical perspective, presenting how women dressed in traditional outfits go through immigration. And then I decided to include this article in this photograph because this year changed my life. In 2012, as Mary and Shelby underlined, I went to war in the jungles of Colombia, first country in South America, in the Pacific, in the hot place in which the war is really seated there by paramilitary groups that are assassins that they are hired. And I went there with United Nations, and I was actually for a day with the team of United Nations set aside by the guerrillas groups that they were in conflict in Colombia with the paramilitaries groups. And our goal in that trip was for me to work with indigenous, a people's plea that became later a signature of my work. And then I got with the team detained for 12 hours, and when we came out of that bay in that humongous river in which everything is only river transportation, canoes and boats, what I saw was the indigenous communities that didn't have anything, waiting to see how they will get this boat that was detained by the guerrillas groups in the middle of this conflict, how they could save our lives. And I was like, oh my God, these people who are in the middle of the conflict are actually really going to be facing the consequences of just standing in the river trying to see how to help us. And so my commitment with the communities became strong. And just few years after, while I was working with other indigenous communities, I encountered one of the most important American movements of the 20th century, led by indigenous, by the Lakotas indigenous. So I went to North Dakota to see how the Lakota and indigenous from America and from all over the world, they were fighting the Dakota Access Pipeline. And I bet some of you remember, right? Because this came on the news. And then I traveled with this camera and people love. And what I love also about this body of artwork is the aesthetic that I created. Because for me, the aesthetic in all of my work is so important. Then as a photographer using this camera, I take a lot of advantage of me producing in the photo lab. In the photo lab is in the moment in which I feel like an artist. It's the moment that the magic comes, right? Because I can create things like for images like these or other type of images. So I mentioned the water protectors because also the water protectors were exhibited at Cook Center, and I had the amazing visit of one water protector, one Lakota woman that was standing with a standing rock, right? Because a standing rock was the indigenous reservation that the Dakota Access Pipeline was crossing. And that is why they start battling, protecting the name water protectors come from protecting the Missouri River, right? Where most of the construction and the pollution nowadays and the contamination is there. And do we know that about 50 million people of Americans drink from the Missouri River? And just these indigenous were trying to defend, right? The rights and the rights of the river, things that we don't think, right? We have the river, we use it for our pleasure, for water, but we don't think about the sacred and the spirit of the river. And the water protectors were, as Mary said, exhibited also at Guykelar. So thank you, Elias. I saw you when you came, and he was exhibiting there, and he came and saw this at Guykelar. And then that was the exhibition in Colombia, and that was a kind of weird thing that I was able to exhibit before the pandemic, the water protectors before in Colombia, and this series that I consider so important has never seen in the totality in America. And then, because I had this BA in communication and journalism, that actually is kind of weird, because when I graduated, I didn't graduate with like a paper as journalist. I graduated as an artist with an installation and everything. So it was kind of confusing because my education as a journalist was more as an artist. But throughout all of what I have done, I was able to recover that and use it as a tool. And anybody can read this. We don't need a language, right, translator, because we can understand that the Sioux, they are actually called Lakota, but called by the conquistadores Sioux, were fighting, and at the end fighting Trump. And then Obama rerouted the pipeline, but Trump came and said it has to go, right? And then that was the article, and thank you, Steve Cash. You just got here because he's a partner. He's the partner who has been writing tons of articles, me providing the research, the photography, and we getting the voice out, because I'm an artist that likes to educate first myself and educate audiences about what I'm doing. Oops, sorry. And one of the topics, because this started going historically, I started doing the stone faces in 2011, right? Because it takes me a lot of time to produce this body of artwork. Then I went to the water protectors. And in 2018, 2019, I bet everybody was seeing the same image that I captured with a digital camera. And I meant to say the fires and the deforestation of the Amazon rainforest, so important for the whole planet. More, the forest is turning into a carbon dioxide emitter, less oxygen we have. And those commodities, all what comes, and that was the article that I wrote for Colombia, all what comes, commodities, wood, meat, soybeans, all of those commodities that we are using here that come from Brazil in the Amazon rainforest mainly, and after Peru and Colombia, the largest swaths of the Amazon rainforest, are commodities that we are using today, taking by granted the importance of the Amazon rainforest. And with that camera, which is my main camera, I did this series of photographs trying to do what I did with the water protectors, meaning that the spectator will hesitate if this photograph was taken today or in the past. Is this a situation from the past? Because what is happening with the indigenous, they've been fighting for centuries. And the Mura indigenous from Brazil, they were fighting the Jesuits when they were exploiting the cacao trees right after the Portuguese conquistadors arrived into their area. But that is what is happening today, and they are still saving the trees, right? So that was another topic. All of the topics that I'm intertwining in the sense that I cannot follow only one project, but several months of the year, I will dedicate more to one project than the other, and I will keep advancing. So these photographs about the Amazon rainforest, they were all awarded in different shows as best in show. And that was actually a surprise, not for the quality, but finally people understanding the importance of this subject. And nowadays, when I'm working in the Amazon rainforest, I am back to think about this concept that I'm developing with other photographers about photo sculptures. So this is an indigenous traditional doctor from the Nukak, living in the Amazon rainforest, that they are not anymore fighting or defending the Amazon rainforest, but they are reforesting the Amazon rainforest. Here, the traditional doctor has used something called yopo. Inhale the yopo that is natural and go in communication with the spirit of the tree to actually be able to heal somebody in the community. And because those are on trees and he's snuffing from the tree, I found the essence of the material that I really could like to print this. And it's in pieces of tree. Actually, I rescued a stump from a climate change storm that was in Terre Haute, and I've been cutting this and putting these images nowadays, right? And with that, it's like a brief introduction to the several topics I've been kind of intertwining along these 10 years. And one important, very important topic for me was the understanding and the education of the sacred plant called coca. Coca nowadays is misunderstood and misused, and coca and cocaine, people think is the same thing. What do you think? Is the same thing cocaine and coca? Just let me know. See, no, yes, no? No, are different things, right? And this audience understands. So I start writing articles with Steve Cash, using many things, articles in Colombia, articles here, in which I am able to transmit that knowledge that I've been learning with the indigenous, with the elders, with the NASA people. Yes, exactly like NASA, like the aerospace, NASA. That is the name of this indigenous. And I came to this area in the southwestern area of Colombia where these people for centuries, over 8,000 years, they've been praising to this plant. And in between, we keep using the plant in a perverted way called cocaine. And I came to this area and I started understanding that it was not only to think about the plant, but the whole millennium culture that is being embedded and protected for centuries by the indigenous, keeping not the secret, because they always knew how beneficial was this plant, but protecting the plant and defending the plant from the white man that right now is trying to exterminate coca. And we are here in this event that was the first one and helped me to publish this article in America, because these men are the traditional doctors that every year gather this tree, they cut the tree, they make a hole, it's a whole procession. All of the community, all of the indigenous reservation, NASA gets involved and they come to this event. And what they have inside this piece of tree is a lot of water just blessed with all of the plants, but moreover, the mother plant called coca. Right? And we will see them in this event touching other trees, dancing, blessing others, and obviously all the time chewing coca, no? Having the mouth full of this. And usually I don't like to use these photos, but I came to tell you also that these people in this area, in this particular indigenous reservation, actually, they have an amazing company, which is called Coca Nasa. That is the tea, as you see, is not the pure leaf. Actually, it's packed for everybody, like tea bags, for everybody to understand that this plant is the mother plant because it has more nutrients, more vitamins than other plant, more calcium, and also in high elevations as the Andes are, it can do something that no other plant can do, and it's process the tuber diet of the indigenous, of the people that lives in the Andes. If you think when the conquistadores came here, we didn't have cows, we were not eating meat. But how indigenous were able to maintain a calcium level and a good standard of nutrition was throughout the coca plant, right? That coca plant, that actually is the history of coca plant, is so distorted. And when I said that, it's because I went through not only to go to several festivals and to understand, but years to get to this important school in the Andes that is a unique project in Colombia in which the NASA indigenous kids are educated in the coca rights. And when you are like, but what she meant by that? This amazing plant has a fruit here that actually is the seed, and it, at a certain time of the year flower, and it's a plant that by nature has been actually reproducing itself in Peru, in Bolivia, and in Colombia, that we are the largest producers of coca leaf. And why in Colombia? Because the Colombian government gave to the indigenous the right, in accordance to the constitution, to have their crops. But the business is so high that nowadays the indigenous have limited the production or the crops that they have because they don't want it to interfere with the perverted business of cocaine, that it should be legal. And it will be the only way to crack down all of the big expenses and, all of the big profits that the cartels are getting. That is why the business keep expanding. And something that you don't know is Colombia, and specifically this area where this school and the indigenous are, was fumigated for over 15 years because America make an agreement with Colombia to eradicate and eliminate this plant. But what happened? Why this plant? Well, the history has been so complex and confusing that we don't know that when conquistadores arrived, took this plant because they were no silly and said, oh, this plant has so a big impact in these indigenous, and we need to explode in Bolivia all of the mines, get the gold from Colombia, and get all of these indigenous to be working basically for free. So they understood at that point that this plant that was venerated by the Incas, and they have at the highest altitude of Machu Picchu, over 5,000, Steve, 5,000, right? 5,000 meters of elevation. They used to have plants made of gold because at that altitude the plant doesn't crop. But the indigenous had that, and the conquistadores saw that, and they took that business, and the business was even legalized by the Spanish king at the time because they realized. But then later, when the plant was not convenient, it became demonized, and then the Catholic Church said, oh, the indigenous are all doing witchery. But what is the legend of this plant? What is the origin? What the indigenous believe? There are so many stories about the coca. At least in the school, what they think is just simply an elder one day couldn't perform more her duties, and in her dream, because that is what the NASA believed throughout chewing coca, she had a vision in which seeds were given to this elder, and she planted, and then she was able to carry on with all of the duties that she couldn't, and she started planting in all of the Andes and across the Andes, this amazing plant. And that is what they told me is the story. And when I'm talking that I found this school called Wasake Wedge in Nasa Yuwe language is because also I'm thinking these images help me to decolonize not only the history of coca leaves, but also decolonize traditional education. Pay attention, classes are basically outside, inside, kids are running everywhere around, but one of the main and more important classes is to come here to pick the plant. When the people that has businesses with cocaine go to the plant is completely scraped. And we know that there are people getting so much of the coca leaves because we know are all wrapped because of all of the cut that they do. But opposite to that, in the school, kids are completely educated to pick carefully the leaves. Because if the leaf come in certain way, the leaf could be used with a cut before it's toasted and applied, or the leaf will have a different property. So they are teach just in the first classes how to select the plant and what are all of the elements of this coca rice that they have been keeping for 8,000 years. They use simply the coca, they use tobacco, and they use drinks that they prepare and put in this gourd because when you are chewing for so long and you have the alkaloid that is the alkaloid that activate the power of the coca leaf, you feel thirsty, right? Because when you are chewing the coca, as I have done and I do, because I don't arrive like a tourist and a photographer and start chewing the coca. That is really offensive. The sacred plant deserves, before I'm going to chew it, there is a protocol that we have to do, and everybody gets with the left hand and do a circle because it's paying respect to the universe that is providing such an amazing plant that will nurture my body and will completely eliminate that I'm hungry, that I'm thirsty, and it completely will enlighten my brain to do the duty that I'm doing at the moment. So that is why conquistadores, they were like, oh, if we take this leaf from the indigenous, they will keep working. And then they used to pay with 3 leaves, 4 leaves for the day because they knew. And then if they were not giving them also the leaf, how they will be feeding so many slaves that they have at the time. So they were like nurturing, forcing to work, and convinced them that they needed, saying that we are going to rescue you by turning into human, right? Turning into something else. And here, Linda is taller than me by now because I took this photograph, I think in 2019. She's wearing the traditional outfit that all is elaborated basically at the school, and she has the famous chumbe because chumbes used to be the book of the Nazas. So because they were chased to kill, and then they have a famous leader, Quintín Lame, that was a hero for the indigenous in Colombia, equivalent to Sitting Bull, that rebelled and educated himself being in church and became an attorney. So before they could read or write, they were putting everything in these sacred books, passing information, always drawing the symbol of the rhomboid. And then when I asked them why the rhomboid is all the time there, and they said because that is the representation of the sun. Without the sun, that is the father, we cannot do anything, we cannot breathe, we don't have the plants. So those are the elements, so that was so nice and seeing there. And this is actually a photograph of the school, right? In the school, there are these 4 houses, as I call it, handmade houses that they don't have any walls and they go inside. I never went inside in the camera because it was not allowed for me. not with any camera, except video from far, right? So as you are going to see in the video that I'm showing today. But then this photo in 2018, you are going to see kids from 4 years and older attending to the age of 16, all to be educated to become traditional doctor. We don't call it shaman anymore, but traditional doctor paying respect, or they are going to, the girls can be a female traditional doctor in this society, or can be a midwife, or can be a cultural leader. So if I have a cut on myself and a burn, I'm not going to be toasting the leaf. I'm going to be toasting the coca leaf when actually I'm going to be chewing the coca leaf, that in general the process is called mambe. To this, the traditional doctor will be passing, you see they are already chewing all the coca leaves, little kids, older kids, and he is passing the traditional doctor using a gourd, the alkaloid that activates, that is a limestone in the case of the Nasas. Other indigenous in Colombia use seashell or other ashes, the yarumo tree, in the Amazon rainforest to activate the power. And you will be asking me, if I chew the coca, I will get some of the benefits without the alkaloid? And I can tell, yes. You will experience a well-being and you will feel nurtured just with a few leaves chewing without the alkaloid. But what the alkaloid does, and that is the important, it activates medicine into the body. Like there is this famous ethnobotanist from America, from Harvard, that went in the 70s to Colombia and studied what nobody has done, a nutritional value of the plant. And when they realized how beneficial they are, they were like, oh, now we understand why all of the traditional doctors called Tehuala say that if you have diarrhea, you need coca. If you are stuck, you need coca. And they were like, how come? Western medicine can only provide one medicine for stopping and for, right? How this plant can do the two things? Well, they realized that there is a little tiny alkaloid inside the part that activates, which actually at certain point will benefit this and will benefit the other, because their body, not the doctor, is taking the decision. The body of the ill person is taking the decision, oh, this that is provided to me in the form of the chewing is going to do this or is going to do that. So I don't know any medicine nowadays that can do that, can go dual. Not only for this example, but other things. So what we are talking is that right now scientists have only scratched a little bit of the power of this plant. And being in the school, is so important that the musicians are playing, because the NASA believe that without the music, the spirits of Mother Nature cannot correspond to you. So we are at the school, and all of the moments the kids are playing, the musicians are playing. So it's so beautiful to be with them, and they are playing. And I was so happy that Christopher James picked that exhibition for El Museo Cultural in Santa Fe, so that was amazing. And right now we see and understand in this medicine apply, even the traditional doctor does the pulse. But what they do is so important, because we go to the doctors, they take the pulse and they don't do anything. They give you numbers, right? You are like, oh, okay. And they say, you are okay, but you are not okay. Vice versa, the traditional doctor will take the pulse and restore the pulse. And actually, that is what they do first thing, no matter if the patient is a baby to an elder. Because the goal in this medicine is to harmonize the body. But pay attention, it's not only harmonize the body, create the balance of the body, is including the community. Because for the NASA, when you are sick, it's reflecting that there is an imbalance in the community. So when he goes and do it to everybody. It's not only one kid. The other instructors that participate and all of the kids in the school. So the traditional doctor is incomplete work 24 hours. And is such an important character into the NASA society, but the one that works the most and he barely gets paid. But he's the important person. For everything, I will call the traditional doctor. For an activity that I'm going to get my coca leaf and bless Mother Nature for this opportunity that is giving me, and I will put the leaf. If I need to bless my tools, I will do it with the coca leaf. It's something that in Bolivia and Peru, people, instead of shaking hands, they interchange leaves, because it's so important, this plan. And then I love that from the NASA, because there is another indigenous communities, the Kogis, that they are not allowed, they don't let women to be able to chew the coca plant. The coca plant and all of the plants that we see in the planet that alive entities like human beings have characteristics. Some of them, they are hot, some of them are cold. And then, because this plant is so hard for the woman, the Kogis have prohibited, but the NASA have allowed to women to get to the same status to the traditional doctor. She's called Etesa, meaning the equivalent to the Tehuala. So she goes and she's blessing the river with the leaves in companion with the musicians, because she's ready to ask to Mother Nature that she also wants to be extracting the other plant that is millennium, like the coca, and is wide used in the school, and is the kabuya plant. So we go through mountains and we go to places to do these offerings, simple offerings, a banana, a tomato to Mother Nature, no? So we are throwing things there, no? And it's true. We are fertilizing, right? We are not throwing trash. We are fertilizing and offering to Mother Nature that we really need to extract this millennium plant. And when we are talking about sustainability, sometimes because companies are putting this idea, it's a lot of budget. But sustainability is to go back to plants like this. Before plastic appeared, the kabuya plant that I'm going to go ahead. It's considered the hair of Mother Nature after it's extracted, right? Can be used for anything, for any packaging. So when I was little, I remember seeing the sacks. I remember seeing beds. I remember seeing so many things produced. And then they are not only used to produce things that they cover the food. It's funny, because when I go to Colombia, because cultural identity is so important, eggs are on top of the refrigerator, right? In America, the eggs are inside the refrigerators, because you think that if the eggs are not inside the refrigerator, they'll get bad, right? So we need to go back, like with the eggs. Eggs, they don't need to be in the refrigerator, let me tell you, by the way, right? I've been in the jungle and with the eggs 10 days and you still can open in hot weather and it's not still damaged. With the kabuya plant, the kids will learn in the school math concepts. Remember? The Incas used to do nuts to be able to teach mathematical knowledge. So it's the same in the school. The kids are not neglected to any education. They are forced to speak the Yuwe language, because that is the priority to maintain the language alive and the tradition of coca. And then outside, they will be speaking into the indigenous reservation with everybody in Spanish, but when they are in classes, they are practicing mathematical knowledge, scientific knowledge. They are talking about how they need to create a lab to produce more things with the coca, how they wanted to use other plants for benefits and for medicine. These little kids are thinking what we are not thinking, how to use every aspect in modern nature, reusable, sustainable, to save the planet. But they are not thinking that they are save the planet. It's part of their culture. So what the NASA are doing by itself for centuries, so they have done, is to ensure the continuity of the culture and to keep the tradition of the coca plant. And I love Juliana because Juliana was with me. She's my translator because I speak very little by now. I used to speak more of Yuge language, so when I go to every community, I'm learning the language of the community to be able to communicate. And it was amazing, all of what she did, all of the translation at the Aurora exhibition. When you go, you are going to see that all of the captions are translated in the Yuge, and me teaching her the concept of translation. And then after we extracted, because I go with them, and it's not only to take photos, they give me duties. I have to learn with them how to cut the plant, how to treat it. They don't want me just only as an observer taking photographs. They want me as a participant. So what they do here is, this is what I already have extracted, and she's chewing the coca, remembering at the same time her ancestors, because what is also what it brings in your concentration the memory, the past, the future, whatever you are thinking in the duty you are doing. And for them, they are talking to their ancestors, bringing the knowledge from the past. And one thing that they do after the coca is, the kabuya plant is extracted, the kids goes in kind of this amazing party in which they wanted to dye everything. So this start becoming an artistic because it's a craft, right? They get the kabuya, they get the beads, they get the red onions, and they go in the duty to actually turn this kabuya plant in the hammocks, in shoes, in many of the things that they are wearing in daily basis. As well as hats, as we can see here, right? So I like that the traditional doctor is actually the main doctor, the main character, the main instructor. Vice versa, we have in our institutions the director, the dean, the chair, and all of the institutions, right? All of the people, professors, but he is the professor, he is everything, but he allows the other people that is working with him to actually been producing their own medicine, because all of them, they've been trained since little, right? So she's just giving to the student in this moment with the spoon a tea with the flower of thought, the flower of thinking, how to improve the thinking on a student, and you go and take another tea from this flower that is not anymore the coca, that enhance also production in the mind and helps to get to the point that there is a healing, because that is the goal here. The goal with the coca leaves is to heal an individual and to heal the community. And pay attention, I really like this photograph, was very hard to get. Maybe it doesn't have any contrast. We cannot see Severiano, the traditional doctor, but I was in the river with them. Why in the river? Because in the river, when we are chewing the coca, is going to be a moment that all of that you have in your mouth is put back to Mother Nature, fertilizing Mother Nature. And then they will drink some of these beverage that they produce called chicha, that is fermented cane sugar and fermented rice also to be drinking, to be able to keep the paste not dry, It will be a moment at the end that they go and they are not speeding, but blessing. That is at the end of the ride. They are go and blessing to the river by putting first the pace and just getting some of these chichas and spitting out for blessings and healing. And that will be the last part of the coca ride. But my projects, more than to get the photographs, has a second goal that is educate. So you see me here at the exhibition. You see me here producing with the community coca paper. Because I go to the communities and I create a communal project. When I start working with indigenous, inquire me, oh, you are going to be like all of the photographers that come here, make money on us, and disappear from us. And it was a good and important thing, what he told me in my face. I was like, who I'm going to be? I mean, I'm going to be the photographer that just leave them, or I'm going to be something productive. So when I come to any community, I tell them I'm going to be coming for years, many years. And then the intention is that we create a project. And here the project with the NASA was not to bring anything else that is medicinal, because they are the ones that have that knowledge. So I brought, because in Colombia, due to the war, we are experiencing more with marijuana, with coca, with poppy seeds, with all of these plants that we have there. Poppy seeds is not from America. Marijuana is not from the Americas. It was brought by the conquistadores, but the coca plant is native to us, right? And then, so with this, I wanted that bring as an artist to the community something else that they can produce and to do. So for years, since the pandemic, I was trying to get funds and and grants to be able to travel and to dedicate time producing this paper with the kids and the community. And this was the exhibition at FAR, Recordando, and I wanted to say that like matter of record, recordando, that is what photography does for us. Photography keeps this record from the past to the present, as I wanted to present with this aesthetic, right? And then this is one of the exhibitions. James, right, Professor James from Indiana University came and visited this exhibition in FAR. But please don't leave me. Don't leave me. This is not over, right? Because I'm going to invite you right now to watch a video I made along the years for you to understand better this project. So, Noel, can you please play the video? En la escuela Huasaquewech, los niños son preparados por el médico tradicional o tehuala en el lenguaje nasa y por 5 dinamizadoras o maestras. Son preparados para ser médicos tradicionales o tehualas, parteras o líderes. Esta escuela fue diseñada en el 2012 por la indígena nasa Sandra Patricia Ramos, con el apoyo del Cabildo Indígena de Toribío. De los múltiples viajes y de las experiencias que pude conocer en la escuela, surgió esta serie que se llama H. H significa en el lenguaje yuwe hoja de coca. Las fotografías fueron hechas con esta cámara de placa antigua y fueron impresas en el proceso fotográfico llamado platino paladio del siglo XIX. Con este proceso se emulsiona el papel con los metales y luego se hace el contacto entre el negativo y el papel y se expone al sol. Como fotógrafa colombiana que ha trabajado con comunidades indígenas por más de 10 años, estoy interesada en justaponer las prácticas ancestrales de nuestros pueblos nativos de la hoja de coca con la guerra contemporánea de la planta que pretende exterminarla y exterminar a las comunidades que las usan. Como grupo, esta serie fotográfica pretende hacer un homenaje a las luchas de los pueblos indígenas de los Andes que han defendido la hoja de coca y su herencia cultural. Con el apoyo de Bees Projects, decidí reimprimir esta serie de fotos llamadas H. Coca en un papel hecho a mano producido por la comunidad indígena bajo la dirección de una serie de artistas colombianas que dictaron varios talleres. Por fin, este año pude cumplir con mi promesa a la escuela. Pude llevar finalmente el taller. Los estudiantes nazas de Huasac de 4 a 16 años estuvieron secando, cocinando la hoja con sus padres, con las dinamizadoras, con los médicos tradicionales. Pero esta vez no lo hicieron para sus ritos, lo hicieron para elaborar el papel. Ellos también limaron los moldes y aprendieron a hacerlos.
En el laboratorio para transformar la hoja de coca con Sandra aprendimos a reciclar papel y procesar la hoja de coca para producir papel natural hecho con fibra de coca. En de cascauña, Sandra capitao. It's bitia en sheds luchqueñak miwa en shedziak.
Vamos a repetir el proceso. Entonces, a ver, ponemos dos pocillitos. Bueno, ponemos un pocillo y medio del papel. Pero no seco, mejor así no, mejor así aguadito, ¿listo? Lo ponemos ahí, le ponemos agua limpia, por ahí 2 pocillos de agua y lo ponemos a licuar. ¿Listo? Entonces le damos como, no sé, como 30 centímetros, segundos, depende como el papel esté. Este taller fue dictado por la bioartista Sandra Díaz, quien es una experta en fibra de coca. En sus obras, Sandra transforma la fibra de coca en hilo, en glucosa, en cuero, en textiles y, por supuesto, en papel. En el año 2021 llevé a cabo el primer taller, que fue dictado por la artista Estefanía García Pineda en la ciudad de Popayán. Pero debido a las restricciones de la pandemia, solo 4 personas atendieron el taller.
¿Y esto por qué salen tan amarillos? ¿La mía? Juan Camilo Yate.
Con estas prácticas artísticas y comunales, la escuela aprendió otro uso de la hoja de coca diferente al uso medicinal que se enseña en Huasac. Para los nazas, la hoja de coca es sagrada, y para los incas fue la hoja divina de la inmortalidad. Finalmente, llevamos a cabo la producción del papel con la artista Johanna Pachón e hicimos la impresión de las fotografías en Bogotá en una impresora UV.
Johanna, como artista plástica, en la última década se ha especializado en la elaboración de papel artesanal. Johanna elabora papel artesanal a partir de fibras vegetales como fique, palma de yuca, piña, algodón y la hoja de coca, con la cual ha experimentado por varios años.
Hace unos años he iniciado la indagación sobre las posibilidades que permite la hoja de coca para la elaboración de papel. En las primeras exploraciones utilicé hoja de coca y algo de algodón, pero no empleé el zumo de la hoja de coca ya que tenía miedo que este oxidara el papel. En las siguientes experimentaciones empleé el zumo de la hoja de coca y esto permitió que el tono del papel se convirtiera en algo más cálido y a la vez que la hoja de coca se notara mucho más. Ahora, después de haberla trabajado durante años, el respeto hacia esta planta ha crecido.
Aquí vemos estas imágenes impresas en papel de hoja de coca que representan el plan de vida de la escuela Wasakewech. Fotos exhibidas en museos y galerías para educar sobre la naturaleza sagrada de la coca.
Well, I forgot to say, because I was a little bit nervous, that to begin with, this coca tea that I just traveled with from Colombia, and this year, after so many years, I was able to travel with some coca tea, right? It's a mild stimulant. It's more beneficial than any of the plants. It's something that we should be using in daily basis. Then I just wanted to mention you that Wade Davis, all of these people, all Tim Plowman, all of these ethnobotanics and people that has dedicated their life to study coca have found great results, and we need to give another look at medicine and start learning from the indigenous the value of this plant. So if you have any questions, I would like to hear them. Thank you so much for you coming today. I hope that you have questions or something to say. Yes, go ahead.
Is it working?
If we wanted to find your articles that you've been writing, can we find them on your website, or is there some other?
Yes, that website you can I became an artist and a photographer throughout being a single mother living in one of the most conventional towns in the Midwest, which is Terre Haute. So I actually have built this. I just graduated over 10 years ago, just 10 years and a half, and I think I have done a lot of work and production. I'm always working, but the website, I put it, I designed it myself. I know it has a little bit of complications, but all of the articles, because what you saw here is just a portion. I have more investigations. I am lecturing this weekend, and I'm inviting all of you at Indiana University, lecturing again on coca in a global indigenous conference, but also I'm going to be lecturing about how hydroelectrics are so contaminant and how they've been contaminated, the indigenous in Canada and the indigenous in Colombia. And that contamination is really serious. We are talking about methyl mercury, right? That affects the brain and many things. So that is the other lecture and article that I'm going to be putting. But saying so, I don't write so many articles because I do a lot the other work, right? The article is one tool to educate and to help to promote, but I do the exhibitions and I work a lot with the communities. Yes, you can get everything in my website. Please go ahead and explore it. That is why it's there. Yes?
Let me bring this to you so other people can hear your question. It's helpful. Excuse me.
Hi, thank you so much. At one point, you talked about how your photos were an effort to decolonize the decolonization of what happened with like the misunderstanding of the coca plant in the West. So like, like thinking that it was a drug instead of medicinal.
Yes.
When I was looking at some of your photographs, I was wondering if it ever happened that your photos were misinterpreted in the opposite direction. So in particular, I was thinking of the picture of the children in the schools where they were like carrying bags and like harvesting. And I was thinking, oh, could this be an image of child labor? So has it ever happened that some of the photos have been misinterpreted?
Okay, per one, the kids at the school, that leaves that they are picking is just for them. And that day we actually were preparing natural lemonade with that, right? And it's for multiple uses into the school. But it happens that question I have never been asked, or people that goes and said, oh, what are you doing? But what I can tell you is when I made this coca paper and traveled from Colombia here, I had already been detained at immigration for transporting things. Like I went to the Amazon rainforest, and for insomnia, the indigenous gave me a piece of tree that I can get a good tea. And immigration stopped me and removed that. I lost everything, and I knew I couldn't travel with something that is not processed, packed, or everything, right? But when I traveled with the paper, and that is why I pointed that article that is mentioned for my exhibition in 2022 after I won the grant, that immigration destroyed the photographs because they saw kind of the leaf falling. We put too much leaf, and we were experimented to put the juice will really change, as Johanna is saying, the tone of the paper. So we've been experimenting because I needed to know if the paper was archival. So we've been producing papers since 2019 beginning, a small size of papers to increase to the size of the paper of the exhibition. Those pieces are large. So that is what happened with immigration. But obviously, I have had people in the past that has stood and said, you are promoting cocaine. And I said, no, cocaine is the snortine, the white powder that has gasoline and has acid, and it's the worst thing that you can put in your body. That's why so many people die, because it goes fast into the system, and then it has brick, baby powder, a lot of gasoline. It consumes. You can smell it. The labs, not only, the plant doesn't smell like marijuana, right? So it doesn't need to be heated or anything. It doesn't smell, it doesn't have anything. But the smell of the gasoline, we can know that there is a lab there producing cocaine. Well, this is clean. So in Colombia, I have to tell you that we were educated because this awful war to never think about the leaf, and the leaf is being called the plant that kills. And we are reverting that. It's not only me, it's a group of people that is a movement that we are defending the coca leaf here in America. Those people I mentioned, go online and look for scientists, Wade Davis, who is Canadian and an expert of the subject, Tim Plowman, that studied in '74, before the business of cocaine arrived there. They have already studied the plant. They knew it's a superfood plant. This can save us from starvation. This is also trying to be implemented in Colombia as fertilizer, so we don't contaminate the crops. It's so multiple the uses. We just know a little bit. Because since 74, people has been trying to do studies, but no. The American government hired these ethnobotanics to go to Colombia precisely, 1974. The cartels and Pablo Escobar, they didn't start the production until the great production of cocaine, large, I mean to say, until 85. So what happened in 10 years? Why this knowledge was hidden? Why? Something that we could have educated, but saying so, in Colombia, we have a very low consumption of cocaine. We know how bad it is, and we are afraid. And even when I came, I'm going to tell you this important story. In 2018, I was chewing coca in the school. I brought a lot of coca because it's legal in Colombia. I can travel with a big bag if I want in an airplane, right? I'm chewing then in front to everybody, right? I got to my house and my whole family was there, and my nephew, who was 18, told me, how come, Anne, you can bring the drug that has been telling us so bad? And that is the concept that we have to revert, right? This is not a narcotic. And by the way, cocaine is not even a narcotic. It was labeled wrong. And then since 1860, which cocaine was invented, until 1920, cocaine was legal, and it was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. Cocaine was legal. People could smoke cocaine. People was taking cocaine as medicine. Because it became legal. A plant that is so beneficial has been illegal since the beginning to today. And that is the plant that we need to rescue. Excellent question. Thank you.
Could you describe the subjective experience that you have chewing the leaves compared with making tea from the leaves?
Oh, excellent question. When I drink the tea, it's beneficial for altitude. That is why when people travel to Machu Picchu, right, in Peru, or goes to Bolivia, or go to high altitude in Colombia, we tend to drink the tea because it will alleviate nausea, altitude sickness. It will tone your stomach. It's completely different, right? But when you chew the coca, it's the nurture of the leaf is completely, your senses are all awake. I could work for 2 days, basically, not thirsty, no hungry. I have to say to my body, I need to eat. So it's a big difference, but it's not a high. It's not in comparison, it's not something that goes and gets you. It's so natural that it's not intense like cocaine, right? Because it's not a high. It's a slow nurture to the body that just makes you feel so good.
So it's the dosage.
It's the leaf itself and the particular benefit. Acid is really for the stomach. So it's the way also you prepare it. As while you are chewing, you can be chewing all day, or you just can be chewing half hour, and you will get kind of the same effect. So only the people that chew the whole day cannot sleep for 2 days. And that is what the traditional doctors, they do. They are not trained. There is nobody coming. The Tehuala, the traditional doctor, told me in an interview, because I go and talk to everybody to get the information, slowly by slowly to get the real information. He told me that he started healing everybody in his family at the age of 6 or 7. And I say, how come? How you can? And he said, because I chew so much coca, I get the vision. And then something else that I didn't mention, when you are with the Tehuala and you are just sitting down, you will see that they twitch part of their body. When they approach to a person and the person is chewing the coca too, they can tell the illness because it will produce certain, specifically part of the body to the traditional doctor, who is the knowledge person, indicating where is the person sick, what plans he should do. And he doesn't get it now, he will get it in a vision. That is why the Tehualas chew coca all the time. And yes, in that, intensity is different. In that, I agree with you. The power is supreme. More you do it, more you get.
We could maybe do one more question if someone has.
Okay, I'm just curious about your process for you described as like photo sculptures.
Yeah.
Specifically the one with
Yes.
the photo of the medicine man on like the tree trunk. I thought that was really interesting, so I was curious how you made that happen.
And the stones. The stones are made with the process. The stone and the piece of tree that I'm doing nowadays, what I do is I get either the stone or either the piece of wood, and I go and I apply, I clean and design my image. I really think so hard before I really visualize because of the shape and what I wanted to say. And then I go and I just simply apply polyurethane, right? That is a clear coat that actually will hold as emulsion over the surface. And then I go in the photo lab usually with the 4x5 negatives, but I created negatives, use 120, 35, whatever you wanted to use, and you just use your enlarger as you are going to do the silver gelatin print or black and white and expose it, but just only use developer, water, and fixer. And a fixer that doesn't have any hardener, because I lost many stones when I started doing it because I didn't know the importance of the fixer with the hardener. So I lost many images, right? And it's a process that has been there. I didn't know that liquid emulsion actually start like an alternative ancient photographic process that in the past, in the 90s, in the 60s and 70s became very popular because you can apply this white liquid inside the photo lab since the 70s, and you just apply this white liquid emulsion and let it dry. And the one that I'm using is really, really careful. I have to design boxes, and not even the red light can hit them when they are drying. And I leave those overnight, and the day after I do the process. It's quite difficult on the pieces of tree because it's not a flat surface, and I had to experiment it a lot. So what I do, instead of thinking about, I have a tray, but it's a tray in which I'm going to get, I have a lot of bottles, and I dump versus putting into the developer. And forget about the times of exposure, because I have done developing even 6 minutes of time. So the 1 minute, forget it when you are doing this experimentation. But it's something that I encourage my students. It's a lovely process, like all of the process. It's so versatile. You can put photographs in any surface. So, something else?
Thank you so much for being here. Do we have any other questions?
Well, thank you. Thank you, all of you. I'm really inviting you to keep doing those readings about especially these ethnobotanists that are there. Like Andy Weil was the person by phone who explained me yesterday. I couldn't understand how the coca leaf could be for the two uses, and he just say it's a small alkaloid, and the body actually chooses, and he sent me a video that he did just not too long ago for a big conference about jagay and coca leaves. So he sent me that video. So I encourage those authors to be reading in English to go more in depth to understand the powers of the plant. Thank you so much for your coming today.